What up, people? Mike Steph here. No, I'm not off my sabbatical. Season 4 of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast premiere Monday, March 16th, 2026. Yes, be there or don't be there. It really doesn't matter. The reason I'm coming here and giving y'all a little bit of taste of what's to come on this new and potential last season of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph is because I've been um listening and watching various platforms, various podcasts, various programs, and there's an epidemic going on. Yes, there's an epidemic going on that's been going on for years. Dare I say decades? Man, not really decades, because the social media thing is still pretty much new. Last 20 years, 15 years, regardless. Media hot takes. I'm talking about in all different topics, all different genres. You have musical hot takes. You have sports hot takes. You have political hot takes. I'm not going to touch about the political part right now because let's just say society is tenuous at best. But I am going to talk about one particular individual who, regardless of what I say and how I say it on this podcast, on this episode, I have tremendous respect for. I dare call myself a fan of him, and I really don't like fanboying out. And I'm not a fanboy, but I enjoy his work. I've enjoyed his work for over 10 years, 15 years. The Morning Jones, the Evening Jones, The Right Time on ESPN, High Noon, Highly Questionable with Bomani Jones, and his latest vehicle on YouTube and on all streaming platforms wherever podcasts are available, The Right Time with Bomani Jones, a Wave Sports production. But 2 episodes, matter of fact, I want to say about 4 episodes I've watched over the last couple weeks piqued my interest and really lit a fire under me to say, you know what, I'm not waiting until the middle of March when it's not really pertinent. Even though it's timeless, I need to get these takes off right now. He has a series going on in which him and various guests talk about 1996, the year in hip hop. And this is not the first time he's made a foray into hip hop history. And for the most part, in the past, I've actually enjoyed the amount of research, or should I say, the amount of knowledge that he brought to the situation, brought to the topic. Unfortunately, these last couple episodes I've seen, him in particular, tell you the truth, if it wasn't for his guests, I probably would crap on it way more than I'm planning on doing. But him in particular, for some reason, I just don't respect his vantage point. Now, I'm 49, going to be 50. He's 45, 46, something that range. So we're kind of in the same peer group, but 2 different reasons, two different situations. One, I'm born and bred in New York. I'm born and bred in Brooklyn, to be exact. He's been traversing through various states and cities in the South, in the Southern Hemisphere, in the Southern Hemisphere of the United States of America. I guess if you ask him, he would say he's from Houston. He's lived in North Carolina. He's lived in Atlanta. I believe he has family from Oklahoma, something to that effect. Don't really care, but those are 2 different vantage points when it comes to hip hop, especially in the 90s. 90s hip hop was very regional. Regional to a fault, perhaps, but regional. I'm from Brooklyn. Brooklyn is his own region whatsoever. I mean, all to his own. You had Brooklyn, Queens, Uptown, the Boogie Down, and Staten Island, and Strong Island. That's all New York. We're not even talking about East Coast bias. We're talking about New York as a 5-borough plus the suburb. Philly came in. Well, Philly was in with 3 Times Dope, so forth. You had Jersey, you had Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, Flavor Unit, Redman, Artifacts, Lords of the Underground, on and on and on and on and on. And then you had Southern hip hop. Now, I'm not going to lie. Was I listening to Southern hip hop in the 90s? No, I was not. Was I even listening to West Coast hip hop in the 90s? Snoop, NWA, The Chronic. That's about it. Oh, matter of fact, you know what? I'm lying. King T and the mother effing alcoholics. Those are my dudes. If I can say I had a favorite West Coast act, it would be King T and the Alcoholics. Exhibit came on 96, 97 with what? The song, I like the song he had with Mobb Deep. Eyes don't ride, something to that effect. I listen. I forgot. Sue me. But I say when it comes to New York hip hop, this is something that not only did I lived, I slept it, I breathed it. Especially in the 90s. I am a child of, matter of fact, I'm not even going to say a child. I was a part of the underground revolution that took place in the early 90s. So many outlets that you had to search for authentic hip hop. Of course, everybody knows about Stretch and Bobbito. Everybody knows about them. And this is not me just saying, yeah, everybody knows about them, but they were the holy grail of the underground hip hop scene. 89 Tech 9, 89.9 WKCR, every Thursday night, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Do you know my whole high school year, my whole high school career, Fridays I would go to school in a stupor because I was up until 5 o'clock in the morning. Oh, I love when they invented the auto reverse cassette recorder, because as long as I had a 90-minute tape, I could set it on and it would reverse through the 90 if I fell asleep. But a lot of times it was like stop and pause, stop and pause, stop and pause, stop and pause, pause and play, pause and play. But that was just a little inkling of what was going on in the 90s. And that's what and this is where I had my gander given up, is I feel like it's a difference between living through it, and researching it. It's similar to basketball. People have their thoughts. Some people think LeBron is the GOAT. Some people think Kobe's the GOAT. Some people think, most people know, 99% of people know, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. But it hits different when you're watching greatness in person as opposed to reading the history books, reading all these magazines, watching YouTube clips. You don't feel it the same. It's the same thing. Is it live or is it Memorex? Am I watching it live or am I watching the replay? It doesn't hit the same. You already know the outcome when it happened. You can watch as many Jordan clips on YouTube, but you already know the outcome. You already know he's a 6-time champ. You already know Kobe's a 5-time champ. It's one thing to know that. It's another thing to watch these runs to the finals, watch these runs to the championship, and in most cases, being the fact that I'm a Knicks fan, actively root against Jordan and get your heart stomped out again and again and again and again and again. But then at the end of the day, you can look back and say, you know what? Even though he smashed our team year after year after year, or he broke our team's heart, broke the fan base's heart year after year after year, you know what? Salute that man. Because it's not like we gave it up easy. It's not like he just waltzed and jumped from team to team to team like some people do now. But I digress. There's a difference between living it and researching it. It's almost, to me, I call researching it and acting like you're an aficionado a gentrified rap head. Like, who would I be to talk about 3-6 Mafia and what you call it, the No Limit and all that stuff, and I didn't live down there and I didn't go through it. I'm just going based on what I read, what I heard, secondhand, third hand, fourth hand. You know that game know that game of telephone? The original conversation is never the same at the end of the line. So when Mr. Bomani Jones gives his take as if he's an expert on 90s New York hip hop, I take offense to it. I take offense to a lot of things when it comes to that. I take offense to supposed to be authentic, and yeah, you're living in Harlem now, but you're living in gentrified Harlem. You wasn't living in Harlem in the 90s. And I'm not saying that as a slight. I'm just saying there's a difference. It's a difference between the Brooklyn that surrounds me today and the Brooklyn that surrounded me 30 years ago. And for better or worse, I'm kind of still in the same area that I was 30 years ago, but there's a big difference. The building that I live in, been in here on and off for 30 years. I done seen babies become fathers, become grandfathers. It's a difference. Every generation, it's a difference. But like I was saying, when it comes to hip hop in the 90s, if you don't know about Stretch and Barbito, don't talk to me. But like I said, I'm going to go further. If you don't know about Marley Marl is in control, troll, don't talk to me. If you don't know about the Underground Railroad or WBAI, they used to come on Tuesdays, 10 p.m. Don't talk to me. If you don't know about the Awesome 2, Teddy Ted, and Special K, they used to come on 105.9 Saturday nights, 1 o'clock in the morning. Don't talk to me. Oh, I can't forget about Cool DJ Red Alert on 98.7 Kiss FM. Yay! Every Friday and Saturday night. If you didn't listen to that and you didn't hear the Jungle Brothers, don't talk to me. What about WBLS? Chuck Chill Out. The original Chuck Chill Out. Not the son of Chuck Chill Out, Funkmaster Flex. A lot of people don't realize that. Funkmaster Flex came from Chuck Chill Out. Don't talk to me. What about the mixtape genre? The DJ Clues, the Doo-Wops, the Bounce Squad, DJ SNS, the Youngest in Charge, Ron G. Of course, Kid Capri. If you don't know that, if you wasn't going down and copping it at Albee Square Mall, Fulton Mall, go uptown to 125 and cop it, or get the dub or the dub or the dub, don't talk to me. What about the original Locks mixtape that dropped in 96 with Genovese, Casino, and all those boys? You don't know about them? Don't talk to me. If you're not from that era, if you didn't actually live through that, in NYC, You ain't qualified to have an in-depth discussion about everything that was going on at that time, in my opinion. Not from hearsay, not from what was documented, not what was repurposed and sanitized through podcasts 30 years later. That's a totally different lens that you have to have when you actually are part of that time. Being the fact that Mr. Jones is a partaker in the cannabis, listen, it's partake. Probably more recent than you probably realized. But neither here nor there. I come from the era. I come from the days in which you could not walk the streets of New York, of the city, of Brooklyn, and smoke freely. A blunt, a Phillies blunt, a White Owl, a Dutch Master, not bamboo, not a raw, organic, or original, maybe even a backwood, Fronto. That gets you locked up. There was no grinders. There was no digital scales. There was no rolling trays. No joint filters. You have to take the bud out and really crush it up with your hand. Crush it up. The homie LOD used to call me the microwave. Crush, crush, crush. If you're not from that era, if you didn't live through that, can't talk to me. We wasn't talking about different strains back then. We talked about different spots. We knew the names of the spots. We knew the names of the trees that we were smoking. The African black, the chocolate, the skunk, the Thai. But we called it from where we copped it from. Ja Love, Staples, Bus Stop, Linden and Powell. Just to name a few. You get back to with the homies. Yo, where you cop that from? Yo, I got Staples. Or where you go? Go to Bus Stop. Nah. Bus Stop was only good in the morning. Bus Stop was only good for the wake and bake. Why? I don't know, but for some reason it was only good for the wake and bake. Staples, they were pretty good. Ja Love, when it was open, was good. Still remember the Ja special we got for Christmas. I swear, listen. This was before exotics was exotics. This joint had with lime green with orange veins. Took me and the two bros man down. Well, it took the two bros man down. I was eating my birthday cake ice cream. Somebody decided to get some pizza from the chicken spot. Wasn't me. Love y'all, bro. But yeah, this is the era that I'm coming from. This is the vantage point that I'm coming from. Brothers get some bread, combine that with some knowledge, some education, and a viable platform, and feel like they can talk out there behind. Talk reckless about the deceased from that era, which I got clips. So it's not like I'm making this up. Dudes don't have kids, but quick to talk about someone has exhibited insufficient daddying. Mother effers be told for no reason. Quick to talk about game, but have you ever heard nor seen? And this is not to cast no aspersions, because sometimes people just keep theirs on the low to the point that perfect. But how many people have no recollection of how many people have a recollection of seeing this dude with a broad? Be honest. How many? He got pressed on TV by Megan Good and was like, probably jizzed in his pants. Here's one thing. It's funny because I've seen the dude in person twice. One, I actually went to his show on Game Theory on HBO. Me and the homie, the Mojo King. Yes, HGF was definitely in effect. And that's that. And like I said, I say that to say I support this dude. I support everything that like when it comes to other subjects, I have no qualms with him. 99% of the time he knows what he's talking about, and he comes from a vantage point that I'm like, you know what? All right, bro. I'm feeling that. But has anybody ever seen him with some shorty? Like, all right. I saw him twice. Once at the taping, Game Theory, which is pretty good, just when he was actually having the hair again. Even though he was talking all ish about, yo, everybody, people need to come home. People need to come home. People need to come home. Pandemic came. Couldn't get to the barbershop. Start growing there. I was like, oh, yo, okay. I think I'm gonna rock this. By all means. And now he came home again. But whatever. Another time was so funny. I was driving. I forgot where I was going, but I was driving. And he was in a part of gentrified Brooklyn. Franklin Avenue to be exact. And then I was driving and I just happened to see this tall, lanky dude about to cross the street against the light. And I was about to yell out the window, "What up, Bo?" Then I'm like, nah, what I look like. But I know one thing, if he would have stepped like 2 more feet, he would have a bow for a leg. Can't be walking against the light, my man. Can't do it. But that brings us to here. Bomani Jones, 90s rap expert? I don't know. Now, I'm going to play a couple clips. And after each clip, I'm going to give my opinion of what was said in said clip. Here's clip number 1.
Mobb Deep, don't one of y'all got sickle cell or something? Oh my God. Yeah. Like you have a seizure, a heart attack. What are we doing right now?
Yeah. Woof. It was a moment.
It was, and like you say, like no Vaseline, I felt like, and that was just over some money.
Yeah.
Tupac had convinced himself that Biggie had him shot. Yeah. Now look, it was I think we all generally agree. Puff did a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He may have eventually had him shot. Yeah. But at that point, we got a pretty good handle on who the dudes were that had Tupac shot. It was not big. Yeah. That did not matter to him. He was so mad. And I think we don't talk about this enough. I think Pac looked at himself as, hey, man, I be helping this big old fat motherfucker out. You know what I'm saying? Ain't I a good dude? He can rap. He fat, but he can rap, and he's my friend. And then he's just like, oh, okay, that's what this is. And the first thing he started with is, you fat motherfucker. That was like we can't. Tupac was not too much to be a little. They call it fat phobic, but you understand what I'm saying.
Hey, when he said, "Remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house," and now it's all about Versace.
Yes.
Yeah. In one of those interviews, he said, "Versace, that's me. That's not you, that's me."
Yeah. That was the biggest surprise for him getting out of jail. Yeah. Like, wait, what? Because look, we think about Tupac like we think about other people in those circumstances, right? He out here like, I'm the illest, right? He's still a rapper. Y'all telling me that this cat that I was rolling with, you telling me that this cat is iller than me, right? You can't tell Ready to Die was Me Against the World, which, I see why he would think that.
Now, to give full transparency, that episode was centered around the year in 1996, the impact that Tupac had. Tupac dropped 2 LPs. He dropped All Eyes on Me, the double LP, and then the Machiavelli, the Dawn, Machiavelli, 78 Theory dropped after he passed away, right? Okay, cool. But Bomani Jones, I'm not talking about the other dude, because he actually lived in New York. And when we get to a couple other clips, I respected his opinion more because I'm like, all right, he lived in New York, he's from here, and he was tell you the truth, he was a little bit more respectful or reverential, if that's a word, to the deceased. And that's where my problem goes. His opinions are Mobb Deep. Man, you know what? Listen to this.
Implied that Tupac got in jail. Was his?
I think that was one of the things a lot of people were saying, and also that he shot a testicle off or something. They were trying real hard, to demean his manhood, but you still Chino XL. Rest in peace to Chino. But
yeah, but out of nowhere when Chino XL got his fuck you. It was
yeah. 96 was when his first album came out. Hey, and look, Chino cracked me up too. He said, you ain't never seen drama. Fuck you and your dope fiend mama.
Oh, yeah, that's a hell of a thing to say.
But it was a little drop in a big bucket, man. It didn't matter.
Yeah. Like Mobb Deep, I felt like they kind of caught it straight. Like that was, I guess, what their thing was. It was Thug Life, we still living it, which, okay, I guess we've got that. And they were on LA, right?
Yeah.
That feels secondary. I don't think Pac was riding for the honor of LA in that way.
Yeah.
The Thug Life, we still living it. Ooh.
Yeah. Which is, also like those are two dudes surrounded by a lot of street dudes, but I don't know how much Thug Life Havoc and Prodigy was living.
Look, man, as someone once told me, being short is a constant fight for credibility, and those dudes are shorter than short people.
You're getting like all Gary Newman on me. Short people got no reason.
Yeah. What's so interesting to me about people with Mobb Deep is they talk about listening to Mobb Deep and then being so surprised to find out that they were little guys. Yeah. And I listened to The Infamous, and maybe it's a confirmation bias that already existed, but they sound like little short dudes to me on there.
Yeah.
Like, they don't sound that fearsome to me on The Infamous. They just sound like it's a hood-ass record.
Yeah, they sound like a lot of people I grew up with. They sound like people who rolled around in crews, and those crews disguise the fact that one-on-one, things might be a little bit different, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, okay. So, their opinions of Mobb Deep might be valid. Probably are valid. But to me, when a dude is deceased, there's certain things that aren't necessary to mention, like talking about how short they are, how they really wasn't about that life that they rapped about, which, okay, cool. But I just don't like it when people of privilege talk a certain way. Like when he was even talking about the Biggie part. Like, yeah, this bat mother effer, it was almost like, all right, I'm going to say it in a quote, which it was a quote. I'm really gonna get this off. I don't know. I mean, all we really know about this dude is that he's intelligent, made a good living for himself, came from a good 2-parent home, and allowed himself to be known as a stoner in his 40s. Suspect behavior, in my opinion. But wow, like I said, England, since he's from the town, since he's from and was around that in that time, okay. Bomani, even if he remembers, which he probably does, because like what? Hit Him Up, pretty much that came out 95, right? So 95, I was 19. Dude is 13, 14 years old. Not in the city. Still getting milk from the tit to a certain degree. It wasn't about that. I just feel like there's should have been a level of tact that was exhibited by his guest. His guest was like, yeah, he said it in a way that was matter of fact. Not like he was like, yes, dude was like, yeah, when I was listening to the music, I was surprised about the fact that people couldn't realize they were short because the way they was talking that talk with that short behavior. And dude, all right, you're 6 foot whatever. And you still haven't finger popped anybody. I don't know. There's vibes that's coming off him that are very haterific. Tell you the truth, that are very suspect. Shoot, Nas even said it. Suspect niggas don't come outside. And those are the vibes that I'm getting. Here's another clip.
He's really, really mad at them. And let me look up exactly when he decided to do this because I don't know the date. I want to say the date was in March. And no, it was released on June the 4th. And that is when Hit 'Em Up came out.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, I just don't know. The thing, here's what's so wild about Hit 'Em Up coming out. And I want to know if you can relate to this part of the experience. It's not like it came out on the radio. Like you heard that it was out and then somewhere you stumbled upon it. And brother, he was mad.
Never heard anything like it in my life. I'm not going to say it's the best diss record of all time because I don't think you can even categorize that. And there have been so many great, that's a genre of rap that I adore when it's done like this, right? And formulaic after a while. But I had never heard anything like it. And I was in New York City and it was playing out of every third car. And I thought to myself, what must it be like to be someone, and I'm not new to Sean Combs, right? Like there's people in Harlem, a lot of people in Harlem did not like Sean Combs because they felt he was an outsider who was pretending to be from Harlem, right? So I know how much he wants the adoration and approval of New York dudes and especially Harlem dudes. And to have cars driving around blasting that every day for months, celebrating this.
Like, it's so mad, it's hilarious. Like, he comes off the top. Can you imagine, like, what it had to be like being in the booth and you are recording him, right? But you feel like he needs to try to do something a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't tell them stop, right? Like, there can't be any versions of that.
Who laughs like that? Yeah, I'm probably the last person that could talk about laughs because my laughs be outrageous. But when his guest was talking about that summer, walking down the Ave, walking down the block, walking in the neighborhood, and hearing these songs blast out of the majority of cars going by, that's a feeling that you can only get in the moment. You cannot replicate that. So when dude it's telling what happened, the vibe at that time, yeah, there's no retort that you can have, but I swear it's almost like if they did AI right now on Bomani, you know how Instagram is going wild on AI. So they got these AI clips with, let's say, Dora the Explorer grown, and she's really just wasted. Like she's a burnout. Her and Boots. Boots is still walking around. Boots look like an addict. But it's almost like Bomani would be the smart guy. The smart guy in AI 20 years later. But the Chino XL part is like, dude, you're Chino XL. So what? What is that supposed to mean? Number one, what is that supposed to mean? They're both in the same industry. Some would say, yeah, they got varying degrees of success, of mainstream success. But maybe, and a lot of times, especially back then, the artists were not in it for mainstream success. They were in it for respect. They were in it for skill. They were in it to be proclaimed as, yo, that dude is nice. Being nice and being famous are two different things. Sometimes they could both be the same thing, but they're two different things. So, all because, let's say, Tupac had more mainstream success and was more popular, so to speak. You can't tell a fan of Chino XL that, yo, he didn't have the right to shoot a dart, shoot back, because he's Chino XL. Even more so, would you have been brave enough to have an interview with Chino XL if Chino XL was still living amongst us and say that same retort? But you're Chino XL. What made you think you should go back out to Tupac? It's a different beast. It's a different beast. Like, there was a conversation that he had on his latest one where they was talking about 96 singles or what have you. No. It was something else. It wasn't the singles. But he was talking about Redman. Now, Redman to me, at that time especially at that time, was top 3. And he probably wasn't 3. Right? Like, everybody says that, everybody agrees, well, a lot of people agree that There's a Dark Side is a classic, which it was. But when he says There is a Dark Side is a classic, and then after that, his albums were getting weird. It's like, weird how? Muddy Waters to me wasn't weird. I mean, to everybody has a different perspective. Muddy Waters wasn't weird to me. At the time, and this is where hindsight can be an asset. At the time, I'm like, okay, the beats were still muddy. The beats was still funkified, but they were a little more upbeat. They were like, even the single, it's like that with him and K Solo. That was they were rhyming their ass off, but that was a song that could jump in the club. That big fella in Geronimo, and then off the K Solo, 160 degrees, on the boulevards and charge, with the off door, put the ram in dodge. It's different. What was weird about it? Now, in hindsight, I could look, and just based off knowing what we know now, as in Redman saying that There's a Dark Side, that was the darkest time. He don't perform anything. He really don't like that time in his life because he was going through some stuff. I get it. Where he was literally buried in the ground, neck deep. Muddy Waters was him extricating himself from the ground into his new phase. Probably, and this is me projecting, probably saying, you know what? I was in a dark place. I got up out of there, and now I'm going to move forward. There's a reason why that album work was buried in the ground. Now he's sitting, mud all over him, but he's like, all right, I'm good to go. It's time to go. Prodigy, from 96 to 98. Matter of fact, from 96 to 99, those 3 years, there's an argument that could be said that Prodigy was top 3. This is after the passing of Big. Jay wasn't that dude. He was there, wasn't that dude. Nas. All right, DMX is to me, DMX was totally different. You can put him number one, yeah, but he's totally different. So in my rankings. But Prodigy, every verse he was on, Hell on Earth, flames. Big Noid, episodes of a Hustler, flames. People don't probably I guarantee you this nigga don't even know about Big Noid, Rappanoid. That EP, the infamous Mobb. Listen. But like I said, when it comes to, like, I'm just a big proponent of when somebody's not here to defend themselves, the deceased, you give them grace. I'm not saying if the person was a POS in real life, I'm not saying that you automatically supposed to say, you know what, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the tough Tony talk to a certain degree. If you didn't have that, if you wouldn't have that energy if the person was still here, then don't have that energy afterward. That's just what I'm saying. In this last clip.
Mob, you feel like you can say and do anything. When the mob goes away, you wrote some checks that your ass couldn't cash, and here's Keith Murray.
And the worst part about it is to think Tupac and Prodigy could have like done a dance thing together. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like those were two guys. Tupac, who by the way wasn't blocking nobody's shot himself. Yeah. He said, "Don't y'all got sickle cell or something?" And you can hear it in his voice that he's making the face. Don't one of y'all got sickle cell or something?
Yeah. I got to tell you a quick story. I have temper issues myself, so I try to keep my temper in check, and it's really.
Even that condescending remark about, Prodigy and Tupac could have had some dance recitals together or something. Just the face that you could tell he had it with the face. Like, don't one of y'all dudes got sickle cell or something? Once again, would he have said this if this person was still here and he was having an interview with them? Not only that, listen, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Now, to bring it home, when media hot takes go wrong, another episode that he had with Howard Bryant, when they were talking about Hall of Fames in all sports. Bomani had some interesting hot takes that even his guests was like, whoa, I don't know about that. Here's one.
NFL Hall of Fame vote was last week. We got Drew Brees, we got Larry Fitzgerald, we got Adam Vinatieri, we got Luke Kuechly, and we have Roger Craig. And I am a little bit younger than Howard, but we have a lot of overlap in our sporting experience. And 1980s football is a fair overlap. I don't have the particular detailed knowledges of everything, but I know enough to have a conversation about it. And I sent Howard a text that said, Roger Craig ain't no Hall of Fame.
It may not have been rang how many seconds later?
Yeah. They bring, boom. Now the phone call comes. What you got against Roger Craig? And my point simply was, and I think it gets tricky for me because once we get these veteran committees, we're just kind of being, to a degree, nice to people. But if in the last 30 years, you didn't really get a consensus on this, and Craig was not a case like Drew Pearson was, like some other players where every year it'd be like, so is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? We hadn't even really been talking about Roger Craig. Like somebody would get cute on the internet and bring him up as an example. And he is the first running back with 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in the same year as a guy. You think about the 49ers throwing it around all the time, but he's a dude that's had seasons with 300-something carries, all of that stuff. But I didn't know this was something that we even had on the board was Roger Craig in the Hall of Fame.
Roger Craig is not a Hall of Famer. Roger Craig is the prototype for a West Coast offense running back. Without Roger Craig, you don't have Jamal Charles. Without Roger Craig, you don't have Christian McCaffrey. Without Roger Craig, you didn't have Marshall Faulk. Without Roger Craig, there's so many running backs that were through threats throughout the 90s and 2000s, even into now, especially now, that owe Roger Craig a level of respect based on he was a dual threat back in the days when either you're a runner or you're a receiver. You're a runner or you're a blocker. Roger Craig and Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen, yes, no doubt he's a Hall of Famer. He definitely deserves the Hall of Fame. But Roger Craig came from that school. Do you know a little known fact? Well, little known popularized fact is that, do you know what current running back is related to Roger Craig? I'll wait. Breece Hall. Breece Hall is a nephew of Roger Craig. It's in the genes. But he was so quick to try to get a joke off to me. He was like, Roger Craig ain't no Hall of Famer. Oh, these old time committees, they just be trying to do people favors. So when he said Howard Bryant, he sent that text to Howard Bryant, quick, like, we need to talk about this. Oh, but it gets worse. It gets worse.
Like it's a tough room. Now, like basketball is the room that's shrouded in the most mystery. We know really next to nothing about the basketball process.
There's no criteria because it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and they'll let anybody in there. Like pretty good is the standard. Like when people start telling me that somebody is not a Basketball Hall of Famer, I could and look, I can have that happen for me with certain people, right? For example, for me, Reggie Miller, not a Hall of Famer. But in that Basketball Hall of Fame, no. We let him in. Oh, in my head, Curtis Martin. I do not envision Curtis Martin, nor do I feel like if you look on YouTube and pull up Curtis Martin highlights, Curtis Martin is not going to look like a Hall of Famer. And I never felt like Curtis Martin while he was playing was a Hall of Famer. However, for 10 years, teams consistently said, you know what our best chance of winning is? Giving the ball to Curtis 300 times. And 300 times a year, he was like, yeah, I'll take it.
And who is?
Okay, I'm going to break this down twice with these two people. Reggie Miller's not a Hall of Famer. As a Knicks fan, this is coming from a Knicks fan, born and bred, Reggie Miller is not a Hall of Famer. Are you out your cotton picking mind? You're just throwing stuff at the wall just to get some clicks? You're just throwing stuff in the wall just to get the gander up of people like myself? You saw the reaction, the expression on Howard Bryant, like, what is this dude talking about? Reggie Miller's not a Hall of Famer. Why? Okay. Was Reggie Miller ever the best player in the league? No. But Reggie Miller was the preeminent sharpshooter during his time. And he had longevity. because of Reggie Miller, the Indiana Pacers were even relevant. He took the Indiana Pacers to the NBA Finals. Him, Jalen Rose, Mark Jackson. Yeah, we get it. But it was on the strength of Reggie Miller. Curtis Martin, not a Hall of Famer? Curtis Martin, at least he gave him his props. 10 straight years of 1,000 yards. Yes, I know. The average in 16 games is 62.5 or something to that effect per game. But we're talking about a different sport at the time. 1,000-yard runner was something to be respected. 10 years in a row, that's something to be respected. 300 carries per year, something to be respected. Being the focal point of said offense for all those years, something to be respected. But we got this mother effer talking about who and who's not a Hall of Famer. Let's progress.
Is a basketball Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's wild. I got to leave you. I can throw you an or, but I ain't joining you on that route.
I believe that he is a Hall of Famer only in the context in which he is making the Hall of Fame. Right. I don't feel like
Draymond a Hall of Famer then by that rationale.
So Draymond is very interesting because I am more inclined to say that I find him to be more singular than I find Klay Thompson to be. Right. I think Klay Thompson had a somewhat singular ability at a thing where Draymond Green is a one-of-one player. Right.
Interesting.
But
by the way, go ahead, Bo.
Okay, but Iguodala, I just do not believe is a Hall of Famer. The real point for me is that I feel like during the Warriors run, we would talk about, well, the Warriors are so good because they have 3 Hall of Famers, and they got Kevin Durant, who's an obvious Hall of Famer. And it's like, well, they're so good because they have 4 Hall of Famers. And I'm like, no, I think we're working backwards here.
Klay Thompson is not a Hall of Famer, but Draymond Green, there's an argument to be made. Are you out your effing mind? Mr. Triple Single? Mr. 8 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists? The guy who single-handedly destroyed the Golden State dynasty? Yes, I said it. He chased KD away. And then when they had a chance to actually try to, even though the plan was faulty to begin with, when they tried to start with this dual timeline thing, he short-circuited that out of jealousy by putting one right punch to the jaw of Jordan Poole, and that was the end of that potential second run. But he's not a Hall of Fame. Yeah, he's a Hall of Fame screw up. Klay Thompson during this era is the second based. 1 minute. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. This mother effer. Klay Thompson, not a Hall of Famer. Klay Thompson is the second best shooter of his generation behind his former teammate, Steph Curry. Now, I'm not going to go to the point of saying how effective would Steph Curry have been throughout those years if he didn't have his splash brother on the other side of the wing where you had to pick your poison. We can't leave both of them open. And when Klay can drop 60 in a game or 5 dribbles or something to that effect, when Klay can have a 37-point quarter, when Klay nickname is Game 6 Klay, because guess what? Killer Klay comes through in a clutch. When Klay can lay claim to having 4 rings, largely based on his prowess from the perimeter, how could you not say that man is a Hall of Famer? Oh, he's just a good shooter. But yet, in the same breath, you're going to say Draymond Green is a singular talent? Singular in the mean of 6'6", 6'7". Could play. Listen, don't get me wrong. Defensive Hall of Fame, great. The way he was able to, literally, he was the de facto point guard in a lot of those teams. I get it. But once again, how many games, how many chips did Draymond Green win without Klay Thompson on his team? Even a diminished Klay Thompson allowed his job to be easier. When they won 3 out of 4 years, Klay Thompson was the best defender, perimeter-wise, on that team, which allowed Draymond to effectively command the paint. Can't have one without the other. And like I said, for dude to say Klay is not a Hall of Famer definitively, but Draymond is. Yeah. And lastly,
Craig in the Hall of Fame. And then next thing I know, I bet Sean Alexander mad than a motherfucker right now. I got an MVP.
Yeah. The first thing, football's just different. Football's Hall of Fame is different from all the other Hall of Fames. Basketball Hall of Fame, you get in the minute you learn how to dribble. Baseball's Baseball's Hall of Fame is very, very, very writer/stat driven.
To bring up Sean Alexander and Roger Craig like they're complimentary. Once again, that was to me, that was an opening. All right, let me get this shot in. Let me get this joke in. 2 totally different running backs, 2 totally different eras. And who's to say that Sean Alexander don't make it in 15 years? On the senior committee or whatever, or the Legends committee or whatever. That to bring up Sean Alexander as to me was a way to diminish the accomplishments of Roger Craig. That's sucker behavior.
Is a basketball Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's
right?
Wild. I got
sucker behavior.
Salty thoughts of Mike Steph, this marks a new beginning. Thanks for supporting a total reinvention. The soul is still here, but the vibe's a little different. Unpredictable, hide the kids and the women. Sports of all sorts, music, mixed for living. Rep New York City, but hate the politicians. Always bring the heat, Steph bacon in the kitchen. Big shout to y'all, I appreciate the listen. Donnie put the rest, but I'm still in the best. In the world of what I do, all y'all know the rest. I live it, I breathe it, I'm the whole definition. The pinnacle, the ultimate, I'm on a new mission. The salty thoughts of Mike Steph, featuring the one and only Mike Steph, the best in the world of what he does. Tap in.
Well, people, that brings us to the end of a very, very impromptu edition of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast. I'd like to thank you, yes, you, for making me the podcast y'all choose to view and the podcast y'all choose to listen to. Sabbatical isn't over. No, it isn't over. New season 4 debut of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph podcast. Debuts, drops, whatever, releases, whatever, or March 16th. Monday, March 16th, 2026. New season of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. And perhaps the last ride, the last rodeo of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. Or maybe not. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. But with all that being said, I'm not even going to string this out because guess what? I'm not even really supposed to be here. But I had to get some stuff off my chest, and I really got some wrestling taste to get off my chest. But I'm gonna hold that in the tuck until I'm back officially. So please tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment, share, view the archive, everything else, and I'll be out of here. I'll be back in like 2 weeks or so, maybe, possibly, probably, definitely. With all that being said, I'm getting out of here. Goodbye.